Okay, guys, welcome back to Let's Get Freaky. Super excited to welcome our next guest. Today, we are joined by Cal Melkez. How are you, sir?
I am doing great. So glad to be here. I've been looking forward to it.
I've been looking forward to it, man. Excited to have you. What part of the US are you in right now?
I am actually in Illinois, so right outside of Chicago.
Nice, man. Awesome stuff, brother. Chicago Bulls fan? Before we go anywhere?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
You like the Bulls?
Kind of have to be.
I like the Bulls, man. I love my basketball. I'm a Boston Celtics fan, but I've got a big love for Chicago Bulls as well, just because of Michael Jordan. Um, so that's what Space Jam started me off.
Yeah, definitely. I was always amazed by that. You grow up with the stories of Michael Jordan, especially, and it's just this time under tension. First one in, last one out, shooting hoops all night, practicing. And I feel like that's something a lot of people don't tap into. And it's such a great thing.
Yeah,
You see that same thing with like that samurai, that Bushido code, that sort of culture. It always reminds me of The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. Excellent movie, excellent.
hmm
And there's this part of the movie where I don't want to spoil it, but God, it's, it's such an old movie.
spoiler
Uh,
alert.
yeah, he's he's observing the culture and the lifestyle of the samurai, and he's writing in a journal, and he says every day they wake up and they dedicate themselves to their craft, and they've tapped into something. They've tapped into this power, and he notices this, and I feel like I notice the same thing, and I want to tap into that, like that
Yeah,
flow state.
yeah,
Definitely.
man, for sure. And when you put all your energy and your focus into something, amazing things can happen.
It's revolutionary. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I watched a reel today. Sorry, I'm staying on Space Jam, but I watched a reel today of, the opening scene where he's just constantly hitting the shots, getting them in,
Mhm.
and it's such a cool scene, man. And then it goes into obviously, I'll stop talking about Space Jam now, but
No, no, is that when he's a kid and he's like just like practicing outside?
yeah, and his dad's
And that's
going,
what I was thinking about. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a powerful scene.
it is, man. And then he makes the dunk, and then it obviously turns into, a cool tune comes on, and he's playing for Chicago Bulls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it, man. Love it.
Time keeps on slipping. I don't
That's
know
it. That's
the
it.
song.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's a powerful
It's
scene.
a banger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
100%, man.
movie.
So this is
What do you
about
think
you
of
tonight. Sorry.
what do you think about this new one?
New one's okay. It's
Yeah.
not as good as the first one, I don't think. But
Yeah.
I was,
I feel like it's more, more kid tailored, even though the first one was, it felt like it had a, stronger, meaning behind
yeah,
it.
yeah. It's always going to be tough to do the second one after Space Jam. The second one's always, in most films, the second one's never normally as good. Sometimes they are, don't get me wrong, but just the Space Jam was special, man. I know I was a kid when I watched it, so that's probably why. But yeah, but I still liked it. I still like the LeBron James one as well.
Definitely. It was good. Good. I thought it was just, good kids movie. It's, like you said,
Yeah,
not as good as the first one, though.
I still rushed out to the cinema to see it. Like, I made the kids. I was like, kids, we've got to see Space Jam, man.
Yeah. You know, you have to. It's like that new Matrix movie. Was it Resurrections? Had to see that. It's like
Yeah,
Matrix 4. Had to.
yeah.
Had to.
I haven't actually seen that, so that's
What?
I know I should have
Yeah.
done.
It's good, man. It's good. It's got a different vibe than the ones before it, but it is good. It's
Yeah,
definitely good.
I will check it out. I do need to see it because they're great films. They're all great films. I want
There's
to.
so
I want.
much
Sorry, no,
so
you
much
go.
revelation. It's so much they reveal so much, especially the first one.
hmm
God, it was like, and I watched it as a little kid, so of course it like stuck with me. I was like, oh my goodness, I might have been like 6,
Yeah.
something like that when I first saw it. But man, something as simple as freeing your mind. It's just this crazy concept.
hmm
It's powerful movies, very
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, man. And it makes you think, are we living in that? Is that actually what we're living in? It's a scary thought, but
A lot of people believe it is.
it's
Yeah,
possible, man. I
it
want to get
definitely is.
in. I want to get into your spiritual journey, where it all started for you. If we can
Mhm.
go to the start.
Definitely, yeah. I had a pretty conventional upbringing, especially for people in the U.S. Most people that do get into spirituality are usually brought in because of their family. It's usually something having to do with, like, you grow up in a Christian household, or that sort of thing. And that was pretty much me at first. But I was always rather strange, rather on the outskirts. I was real big into ghosts, and I was really interested in the haunted and the macabre, and this sort of weird, risky sort of stuff. And I felt strange as a kid. I always felt like I had done this life thing before, that I was familiar with all of this, and so I had this strange sense that my family wasn't my family. I knew I came from somewhere else. I knew I was a part of something else, and I was just here visiting. I thought it was like I'm at the zoo, and like I'm just here doing this human thing, and I'm gonna go back where I come from. So that's kind of what got me started off. And uh, after a few years, I was in high school. I started to study hypnosis and Buddhism, and that's when I got my first taste of really powerful shifts in awareness. Uh, for those who don't know, Buddhism, it's like Hinduism, Buddhism, these teachings from like just Far East, they give you a profound glimpse into who you are internally through things as simple as breath work. One of the first meditations I did that was extremely powerful for me was just a simple pranayamic breathing method. They called it the unclutch breath. you know I sat down, I got comfortable, the whole thing. I'm a meditation teacher, so I love like just giving away techniques and things like that. So with this meditation technique, the goal is to breathe in, follow the breath, and focus predominantly on the negative space in between breaths, the moment where your breath goes from an inhale to an exhale, and you want to focus on that click over. And when your breath goes from an exhale to an inhale, you focus on that negative space, that gap. And what happens when you focus on that gap is you start to unclutch. You start to break away from the ego, and you start to experience the expansion of consciousness. And for me, I had never felt this before. So I'm sitting there, I'm focusing on this breathing, and next thing you know, I start to feel like I'm falling, and the room is shaking. Oh my God, what's going on? I open my eyes and the room is literally shaking in front of me. And then it gradually slows down and everything is normal. And that was one of my first glimpses into this like higher perception that humans can experience. And it was mind blowing. Never had anything like
How old was you when that happened?
it. I had to be, I want to say high school. So maybe sophomore year, junior year. Can't really
Okay,
recall.
so
Yeah,
you
somewhere in there.
you was young. You
Yeah,
was
yeah. I
very
was,
young.
I was, I was a little guy.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, man. And you said you felt like you weren't from here.
Mm.
Do you know what that was? Do you know what that feeling was? Was it just a feeling, or?
I think as a kid, it was a deep understanding of the reincarnation process.
Mhm.
This idea that we are going through this life cycle of birth and re-death. We're trying to learn. I subscribe to the belief that we are God trying to experience different aspects of God, the universe trying to experience itself through the apertures of, us human beings. And I was aware of this idea that I had lived before. I had really crazy deja vu as a kid. Whole days I would remember. It's like, oh, I've been through all of this. I'd go through everything that would happen, almost to the point where you'd be able to like, I know what you're going to say. Like you'd be thinking, oh, and this and
Wow.
this and this happens, and it would happen. And so it was like I've done this before. So I was really uninvested in things growing up. It wasn't the best thing going through school to be kind of detached, but I made it through. Uh, but I felt like I was a part of some other collective. And now being on the other side of it, I feel like that's definitely, people can call it aliens, different life forms, beings from other dimensions. I see it as this council of beings that comprise the pantheons of all sorts of different religions. It's like, and I don't know how much of experience you have with astral projection, but I mean, you've had some people on the podcast. I've had these experiences out of body where I meet these beings that people would call Hindu gods or Greek gods. I meet these entities, and they teach and they admonish and they give me lessons on how to live. And I'm really big into ceremonial magic and ritual magic. And so they give these techniques for controlling reality. And it's that, I believe it's that family, the soul family that we come from. We are them. We're here having this experience. I believe that. I I can't even say I believe it. I've had so much experience with it. Like
Yeah.
it's deeply ingrained in me.
Interesting, man. When did the out of body experiences? I know you had that experience when you were really young, but when did you actually start actually feeling yourself astral projecting? When did that start?
Uh, I actually have the date recorded.
Oh wow.
Uh, yeah, because it had taken me 2 years. So since sophomore year, like at sophomore junior, I'm not sure. Had to have been like sophomore junior, but since that time, it had taken me 2 years to finally have my first out of body experience from the moment I started practicing, and it was November 2012. It was November 18th, and I was I had just found another meditation technique. I was listening to binaural beats. I was doing everything. And I finally had this experience. I woke up in the middle of the night after a nightmare. It was something popped me out of my sleep. And, next thing you know, I'm laying on my back in bed and I'm like, all right, well, that was that. Let me get up and, go on about, let me get some water or something. The moment I try to move, I feel like I'm violently paralyzed. Not just like, I can't move, but like I'm held there. Some force is holding me down. And instantly I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, I can't move. What's going on? I had had sleep paralysis before, but this was different because it was accompanied by these violent torrents of just energy, electricity, just this running through me. And I didn't know what was going on. I'd never felt anything like it my whole life. And it's so intense that I think to myself, as it continues to build, and I'm hearing this building up in my ears, I think to myself, if this keeps up, I'm going to die. Like I'm dying right now. I don't know what I did, but I'm dying. And when I can't take it anymore, very last moment, pop, like something snaps, and I feel hands grab me by the shoulders and pull me out of my body. And it felt like if you were wearing a onesie and the onesie was wet and you were trying to slide it off of you. It's just visceral energy sensation. And next thing you know, I'm on the floor. And I'm like, oh my God, what was that? This experience was so crazy. I fell out of bed, I thought. I get up, I look around the room, everything is slightly blue tinted, and there are these waves kind of moving through the room, these waves of light kind of flickering through the room. And I look back at the bed, and there I am, scrunched up, looking like I'm in pain. I see myself there on the bed. And so I get close and I'm like, oh my God. Next thought is, I did it. I finally did it. It happened. And, I go off, I phase through the walls and I'm floating around the house, having a good time. And then I'm back in my body. It probably lasted 2 or 3 minutes. And first thing I do is I call my mentor, and say, hey, something happened, it's crazy. It finally happened. I get on my recorder, I start recording the experience. It's like I finally done it. It was the first real breakthrough spiritually that I had ever had. That meditation was powerful, but this was like if you were given a glimpse into heaven for a moment.
Mhm.
This was like everything you've been working up to is real. Everything you've been looking for, it's possible.
Wow, man. So before that moment, was there any doubt in your mind that like maybe you couldn't do this, maybe this couldn't happen, and then it just happened?
Oh
Is that
yeah.
how it was?
2 years worth, man. 2 years worth of trying and failing. And, lucid dreaming was the best I had gotten. And then
Mhm.
finally it happened. The funny thing is, after it happened, it's like I broke the seal. For a straight week, I'd astral project every day, multiple times a day. I'd wake up and I would fall out of my body. I wouldn't even have to try. It's like I had
Wow.
opened this barrier that had been closed, which is why now I teach people that you often can't astral project because your chakras are blocking you. I tell people on my YouTube channel all the time the chakras are a door and a cage. For those who don't know how to open the chakra system and use their internal energy, the spiritual energy that we all have, you're locked in this body. Occultists and alchemists will say that the body is the prison without walls. We're locked in here and we can't leave our bodies because of it.
You might have saw my face drop a little bit when you said something there, because I've talked to a lot of people about astral projection recently. Something that's always fascinated me. I used to suffer really bad with sleep paralysis. I still get it every now and again, but for where I used to live in my old flat, I would get sleep paralysis once a week. And the reason why my face dropped, because I've heard other people say it as well, and you've just said it there probably clearer than anyone said it, is the vibration that goes through your body. And that is what I feel before I get into the I call it an attack, because I'm getting this wonderful feeling of energy going through me, vroom, like a vroom, and you can hear it in your ears, and it's like a buzz that you can feel going through your body, and it's a really nice feeling. And then, but obviously, for me, there's something in the room that's trying to get to me, and that sort of takes over the moment. And people have said to me that you're basically getting close to um astral projecting, which blows my
Absolutely.
mind.
Yes,
So I just
you're
wanted to,
close.
oh man,
The vibrations are this vibrational state has been well documented. People have talked about it for years and years and years, all the way back to, antiquity. People know this concept of this vibrational shift that happens. What's happening is you're raising your energetic frequency. This reality that we live in, our minds are like antennas. They actually are. We have billions of magnetite crystals in our brains right now. It's a membrane around our brains right now that act as receivers in tandem with the pineal gland, and it creates this electrical receiver, or you pick up on the signal of reality. So what's happening when you're astral projecting, or when you're about to, you reach that threshold, is you start to shift, you start to pick up on a different frequency. And you know how you turn the radio dial and you get the static in between? That's exactly what's happening, because you're transitioning from here to there. And sometimes that energetic shift can be frightening, sometimes it can be pleasant the more you're used to it, and other times you don't transition quickly enough and you experience the body being paralyzed.
mhm,
Sleep paralysis, it's a natural process. I've dealt with a lot of people who have this visceral fear of sleep paralysis, and I was one of those people. It happened to me just like you every single night. For those 2 years, it would happen all the time. And I've had some really interesting experiences where I'm fighting to get out of sleep paralysis. I'm literally, my arms are up and I'm trying to break out and I
yeah,
can't. So it was really interesting. I found a few things help. One thing in particular is very useful. Changing your breathing patterns. Because what's happening is your body is actually falling asleep. It releases a chemical to paralyze the body so that you don't act out your dreams. That's the science of it. Uh, your body knows that you're awake based on the change of brainwave activity that's happening. And it also knows based on your breathing pattern. So usually when you're having a sleep paralysis episode, your breathing is the breathing of sleep, very shallow, hardly happening. You're breathing normally. If you take your breath and you expand it, your body will wake up and say, oh, wait, this isn't the right breathing pattern. So basically just breathing in deeply, just really big, deep breaths, and you'll snap right out of it. Learning that, I would have trips and, these crazy experiences would start happening. And I say, no, 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 relax. And I would just breathe in, breathe out a few times, and it'd be fine. One thing I also noticed is that saying the names of certain deities, certain gods, would stop it from happening, which is why I got serious into Christianity, is because I would say Jesus and it would stop immediately. And I was like, no, that's very interesting. And so I started looking deeper into Christianity. And so some very, very interesting things can happen, but
yeah,
that's a good way to stop it.
yeah. Well, I've experienced that myself, because I was getting to a point where, so obviously there was, when it was happening to me, for whatever there was a negative energy trying to attack me. I always called it the hag. That's how it felt. It was just a evil mass of nastiness, like a bad energy, and I'm fighting it in my mind trying to get rid of it. And I use, and looking into it, after a little while, I used Jesus's name, and that stopped it. That did take me out of it. So I've experienced that as well. You know, wild man. What do you think
Yes.
would happen to me if I? So when because I do experience this still now, it's very not as common. I had it a few weeks ago. What do I do? Because I panic in that situation. Like there's something trying to get
Of
me,
course.
and
Yeah.
you know, what if I just relaxed and accepted the moment, control my breathing? Could I just pop out? I mean, is that?
Honestly, it is that easy. We give it more difficulty than it's worth.
Uh-huh.
When you're in that state, your body's asleep, your mind is aware and awake, and you're starting to experience the veil between this reality and the next thinning, you're already there. All you need to do is will yourself out. What most people do when sleep paralysis happens, they're focused on their body and moving their physical body. Well, of course,
Mhm.
you're paralyzed. Of course, you're going to do that. Fear is fear acts as the agent in the matrix. It is guarding the door and it is stopping you. If you're experiencing sleep paralysis, you are in a great place. It is the holy grail for you. You just have to change your thinking. I know it's frightening. I've been through it. Trust me. I've been through some tough ones. But I've reached this place now where when it happens, I radiate this emotion of love.
Mhm.
It may sound corny, it may sound far fetched, but counteracting that fear, you need trust and love. I say to people all the time that trust is the other side of fear. The moment that fear comes, you feel the hag, you feel the hat man, or whatever presence is there, you believe is there, whatever is happening, just accepting, saying, I'm fine. Whatever's going on, I'm fine. I trust that I'm above this situation.
Mhm.
And then you take advantage of it. You capitalize on it by imagining yourself in some other part of your room. That's the easiest method. There are plenty of them, plenty of them. One of the easiest methods is just imagining yourself in another part of the room or imagining yourself rolling over and getting up. Very natural. 50% of the time, that works for people. You don't have to
Wow.
do anything else. Nothing at all. One thing I want to give you and your audience that I think is really powerful, I believe anybody can astral project very, very easily. Um, One of the things I teach people is that throughout the night, this really easy way, super simple way to astral project because you're taking advantage of the natural fluctuations in your brainwave activity. Throughout the night, you want to wake up, go get a drink of water, go use the bathroom, probably after about 3 or 4 hours of sleep. Now, after you've gotten that drink of water, use the bathroom, stay up for a few minutes, 5 minutes maybe, 10 minutes, then go back to sleep. But as you fall back to sleep, say to yourself, I'm going to remember to keep my eyes closed and not move the moment I wake up. I'm not going to move or open my eyes. Now, what this does is when you wake up, after enough time, you will remember. You'll wake up, you'll keep your eyes closed, you won't move, and you'll be in sleep paralysis. Boom. It'll happen just like that. You'll be in the perfect state. Now, when that happens, you're in the right position to just roll out or just get up. That's the easiest method. You're taking advantage of the natural physiology of the brain. When you wake up, you're in the perfect place to astral project. Why? Because your brainwave pattern is in theta state, this 4 to 8 hertz range of electrical activity. It's the perfect position to astral project. Now, I'm really big into UFOs and aliens and all that other sort of stuff.
My man.
And of course, how could you not be? Um, when I was doing a lot of research on UFOs and abductions and contact between people and these beings, it always seemed to happen that they were in this state of brainwave activity, theta state, this extremely meditative, spiritual sort of mind state, and they would have these experiences. And so I thought, hey, that's really interesting as well. And so I started using binaural beats. When I started doing that, I started astral projecting every single day. Just
Wow.
easy. Just because realizing how these things work. You know about binaural beats? I'm assuming you've heard of them before.
I've heard of them, but for myself and the audience, can you just tell us a little bit more
Of
about
course.
that?
Now, binaural beats utilizes a phenomenon called this hemispheric synchronization. So basically, what it means is you take headphones, put them in each ear, and in each headphone is a slightly different frequency. What the brain does is it hears those two frequencies and it hears a third frequency. A beat is created in the dissonance of the two frequencies. Now, this dissonant beat, this dissonant wave, has a frequency to it. So, say in this ear, it's 200 hertz playing in one ear, and 208 hertz playing in the other ear. Just a little louder. It'll create a, and the mind tries to match that middle frequency. That middle frequency is the difference between the two. So you'd be at 8 hertz. Now, it's interesting because the mind mimics what it hears. And so if you're listening to this 8 hertz frequency, you will gradually start to enter a very deep meditative state. And you will actually be in this theta state in a perfect position to astral project and have these UFO abduction sort of experiences. And so binaural beats are a fantastic resource. You may have heard of HemiSync, a company that specializes in producing this. And, actually the CIA worked with HemiSync to kind of do this brainwave activity and see what happens. It's a public record now. It's been disclosed that they were using this, and some of the things that were recorded in these sessions, these test sessions, were absolutely crazy. People astral projecting, people hearing thoughts, and just listening to these frequencies. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, man. It is wild. It's something that's always fascinated me, but at the same time, personally, it's all that's okay. No problem. Get him on. Get him on.
No, he's got to be stopped. Give me one
That's
second.
cool. Yeah, no problem, brother.
I'll put him up. My
I'll just
apologies.
pause this. No problem. So the thing that's worried me and what does worry me with doing it is if you leave your body, you go out, experience this amazing thing, but what if you can't get back in? Can that happen?
That is always a big concern. I've worked with a lot of people now over the past decade, and that is one of the biggest concerns. And I think it has to do with movies like Insidious and that whole thing. And there's this great. I like those movies, but it fills people with this misconception that when you leave the body, it's exposed and it's open to some sort of demonic possession or control or something like that. And I want to dispel, if I may, those fears. I want to, disabase you of those things in saying it's a myth that people believe, and it has to do with the mechanics of astral projection. When you astral project, your spirit, the essence of who you are, the thing that animates your body, isn't leaving. You're projecting your consciousness into the astral. Your conscious awareness is what leaves. A double of you leaves the body. Now, I'm sure you've heard of like the silver cord that connects you to like your astral body, and that's what people say, like, you won't get lost. You have the silver cord tethering you to your physical body. That's true. That's true. You remember how I told you that I was pulled out of my body? Something grabbed my shoulders and pulled me out of my body. I've done a lot of research on that. It puzzled me for a long time. I didn't see anything there, but I was definitely pulled. I was helped. I looked into the holy guardian angel. I looked into what the ancient Egyptians call the Ka. Now, the Ka is this idea of a spirit that resides with you from birth, and it actually guides you through the afterlife. They talk about this in the Book of the Dead. I started to look into this, and around the time I was looking into this, I had an experience where I spent all day meditating, praying, doing that whole thing. And that night, after waking up from a dream, I think it was sometime in the middle of the night, maybe like 3 or 4 in the morning, I woke up to the sound of someone talking. Now, there wasn't anybody else in the house with me. So, I was sleeping on a couch at this time. I think my roommates weren't there. And someone was pacing back and forth through the living room that I was in. And they were probably about 5 to 10 feet away from me, pacing back and forth, and they were shimmering. Imagine if you took the Invisible Man and you just dumped glitter on him. So just sparkling. And I look over and I see this. And I'm like, oh my God, what is that? and this thing is walking back and forth, and it's saying we are temples for the living God. And I was like, what is that? It's saying it back and forth, and it notices that I'm looking at it and that I'm aware of it. And the next thing that happens is it says you are a son, and it just clicks away right up in front of me, just in a split second. It's on top of me, rests its hands down on me, and I'm reminded in that moment of being pulled out by the shoulders. It's like a familiar, this thing is familiar to me. And I feel these vibrations, extremely intense, like being on the giant drop, just like just crazy energy. And this is usually my disclaimer that I give, and when I reach this point, because this does sound very crazy, but I start to lift up off of the couch and I hover there for a moment. And I'm, of course, screaming at the top of my lungs because I have no idea what's going on. And then after a moment, I'm back down onto the couch and I just stay there until the sun comes up. And then I, you know, slowly go about my day afraid that I'm going to like disappear out of existence or something because of this crazy experience. And which is why I started to look more into UFOs and abductions. And I was like, what is this that happened? I
Mhm.
think people who are encountering these Pleiadians, these aliens, whatever they are, I think they are these ascended beings, these deities that people talked about in ancient texts. They may all be the same beings that reside together and guide mankind. It was one of the craziest things that's ever happened to me in my life since then.
Yeah.
I've had some crazy experiences, but that was definitely one of the craziest ones.
Yeah, man. That is wild. So do you think whatever you were seeing and what you interacted with, do you think that is always there? But for whatever reason, in that moment, you was in that frequency and you could see him.
Exactly. That was the next thing I was going to say. These things are always with us, they reside all around us. In Islamic traditions, they believe in jinn. The word jinn in Arabic means invisible or unseen. They
Mhm.
believe in these beings that are unseen that are around us all the time. And if you're able to raise your frequency or enter this mental place where you can shift your awareness, you can perceive these things. I think that thing that was pacing back and forth was surprised that I could see it. And again, I woke up at this specific time. And when you wake up, your brain waves are in the right place for you to experience these things. And so I may have been in the right frequency to pick up on this thing that I wouldn't normally be able to. And it saw me and it interacted with me. Uh, and I think when it comes to, like you said earlier, getting lost out of body, I don't think you're getting lost. And I think the silver cords that connect you to the astral body, that belief, I feel like you can have more than one silver cord connecting you to multiple different spirits. And that's what I feel like happens to people. Have you ever heard of people who are just like, yeah, I just have this spirit all around me, or there's always paranormal things happening around me? There's always
Yeah,
weird stuff happening. I feel like people are, whether they know it or not, they are linked by astral cords to these beings. And
interesting.
yeah, and I've seen it talked about in some of the ancient texts of like the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and like it's extremely interesting. I don't hear many people talk about it like normally, but I feel like there's something to do with this connection that happens.
Yeah. So is it sort of like that's a part of us? These entities or whatever they are is literally a part of us in another. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I know exactly what you're getting at. I feel like that is definitely the case. My belief is that I believe much like the Hindus believe in Brahman, this one source consciousness from
Mhm.
which everything else has come, everything else has kind of taken form, and we are all just fractals or just variances from light. The way I like to put it is if you take a prism and shine light through it, you get the spectrum, like the visible light spectrum. That's us. You take source consciousness and you filter it and you get this experience of reality. And I feel like that's what's going on. uh, I had an experience once. I call it the astral theater. And like I said, I have some very strange
I want them all,
astral
man,
projection experience.
if you
Oh
don't
yeah,
mind.
definitely. Oh, of course, man. I love telling them. uh, I started to have this experience of what I call the astral theater, where I would astral project, and there would always be a spire, like a huge building in the distance. And that building seemed like it went on for infinity. It never ended. And I would reach this place no matter where I went astrally. I would get there eventually. It was almost like it was a like the boundaries of this matrix, and that building was the boundary. It went on forever in both directions, and it go up forever. And I would go into it, and there would never be anybody in there. It would be like an empty theater. I'd see like a ticket booth for you to get your tickets, and there'd be like concessions, but there wouldn't be food or anything. It would just be the outline of a theater. And I would always go through the theater, and I would be led to one specific room. And in that room, it was like Coliseum seatings. Like if you went to see a football game, you'd have the like layered seat. And in the center of this room, there would always be a golden cloud, this huge gold cloud in the center of the room. And from it, you would see these cords, these like silvery shining cords coming off of it, thousands of these cords. And sometimes there were people there. Most times there weren't. But one time I saw other people there, and they would show up. And, before I went in, I'd watch these people go in, and I'd just watch what happened. And a cord would come and it would connect to them, and they would turn into light, and they would enter this cord and they'd be gone. And so I was like, oh my God, what is this? Like, let's do it. So I go in one time, and I'm sitting in this stadium, and a cord, it's almost like it's alive. This astral string, almost this cord, it tethers to my chest, and I feel that same vibration, that same energy, super intense, but also an energy of love. This was like unconditional love and peace the moment it hit me. And then the next thing you know, bright light, and I'm in a different space. And I'm just there in this perfect peace. And that's when I realized I had regained my access to source. Like I was there in source consciousness. There was no me. There was no this or that. There was no place. There were no thoughts. There was just peace and the bliss of being in that. I stayed there for what felt like time in these places. I can never really like gather.
Mm-hmm.
I had to have been there lifetimes until I started to become aware of my room again. I started to hear a heartbeat, boom, 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 and I was like, "What is that?" And then I start to feel my body again. I was like, "Oh, I was a human. I was doing this human thing."
Wow.
And then the next thing you know, my room materializes, and I'm there in my room, laying in bed, having just astral projected, and I'm back, feeling my skin tingling from this experience. It like crazy things like that make me think like we have to be source. We have to be God in some way. And I feel like Jesus experienced the same thing because he came back. Most people don't know, but Jesus actually went and he learned about these mystical things in Egypt. The apocryphal scriptures that were removed from the traditional Bible talk about Jesus's life and what he learned. And he came back talking about like, I'm God. Like the kingdom of heaven is within you. It's at hand. This is what he meant.
Interesting. Yeah. Man, that is interesting. Wow. Man, I mean, it sounds very much when you talk. I've talked to a lot of people that have had like near-death experiences, and they've come out their body and they've gone to that. Some people explain it just how you explained it, like you're 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 not you, you're everything, basically. And is that what is happening to people? Is this where we go after, basically?
I think in a way it is, and there are most likely many levels to it. But I think a story that you hear a lot with near-death experience is when they leave the body, there's this light. I hear a lot of times, and people go through a tunnel.
Mhm.
And I always thought this was really interesting because when I would meditate and I would try to astral project, I would go through these tunnels. I'd reach a point where, behind my closed eyes, I would start to see like this three-dimensional tunnel start to move out in front of me. And I would go through it. I would will myself, I'd imagine I was going through it, and it would lead to an astral projection experience. At the end of the tunnel would always be a light. I feel like what's happening is that these tunnels act as like portals to different, I don't know, different realms of reality. These different, like, I call them stargates again, just because I like alien stuff.
Yeah.
And it teleports you from one place to the next. Uh, that's actually how I met what I call the Council of Light. Uh, now, this is a really interesting concept that I feel like people don't usually look far enough into. We kind of accept what mainstream religion tells us without looking much deeper. But I was doing research in the Bible. I was going through Psalms, and Psalms 82 talks about God presiding over a council of other gods. People don't talk about this. I read that and I was like, that's weird. Like, what is that about? And then I was reminded of the book of Genesis in the beginning. And God says, let us make man in our image. Who is this us God is talking about? And if you look at the Hebrew translation that comes from, the Hebrew is Elohim. Elohim means many God, like Elo, El, God, Him, many. Elohim, many
Interesting.
gods. And so I started to look into this and look back through ancient cultures, and they all believe in this concept of a council, a gathering of gods. You get the Greeks, you get the stories in the Vedas and the Upanishads, and then you go all the way back to Egypt and even farther. I started to look into ancient Mesopotamia, and that's when I started to see the correlations between the Bible and these other ancient stories to this story in they call it the Enuma Elish, the seven tablets of creation. This story of how the world was made and how man came to be. I started to see that all these different religions had taken parts of this story, and in the Bible especially, there were direct links and connections to the stories in the Enuma Elish, these ancient cuneiform tablets that go back five much energy, man.
Sorry, we lost each other for a second there.
No,
But
no
we're
big deal, no big
we're
deal.
back. We're
Uh,
back.
and so I was saying, I started to look into these different ancient cultures, and I saw a correlation between this gathering of gods and the stories told in the Enuma Elish, the seven tablets of creation from ancient Mesopotamian times and the Sumerian culture. And some people call them the Anunnaki, some
Mhm.
people call them sky gods, you call them aliens. What I was seeing was that these same beings were the same beings talked about in every other religion. And now, this is where it gets a little controversial. I think all these religions are the same encounters with these same entities. We're just talking about them differently. It's just like a different name for the same thing.
Mhm.
You know, it's crazy when you think about that, but we're experiencing the same entities. And so when I got that, I started looking into this idea of stargates, just like what we were saying before. I believe the tunnels that people go through when they are, having a near death experience, that these are portals to these realms where these beings reside. And like I tried a long time to get to these places. And it wasn't until after that experience where I met that being that was walking back and forth and it touched me and I levitated. It was after I met that being that when I started to astral project, there was something there. A being that was like my carbon copy was there, and it was made of light. And then I understood that's the Ka. That's the holy guardian angel. That's the spirit that's with you all the time. And the spirit never spoke. It would just guide me. And it was like, what's that the movie with Ebenezer Scrooge, just like the
Yeah.
Christmas Carol. That's what it
Yeah.
was like. It was like the spirit would guide me through my memories, through my experiences. It would teach me. And after so long of that happening, I feel like I was, vibrationally strong enough. It led me to a doorway up in the sky in one of my astral experiences. And this doorway was blue and, just looked like a big round opening. And it led me up to it. And as we passed through it, it was like instant euphoria. It was like I was the highest I've ever been just passing through this. The energies were so intense that it was like I couldn't even remember who I was as I was going through this. It was like I had just taken 5 dried grams of mushrooms. It was like, oh my God, where am I going? That's how everything was just kind of crazy and spinning and flowing around itself. And I felt this energy so strongly, I thought I was going to be pulled apart. And then suddenly this face appeared as if it was a part of the landscape. It just came out of nothing. I don't know whose hand
Wow.
that was. Maybe it was this being's or my, this astral guide that I had. But something touched my chest and I felt peace. I wasn't afraid anymore. Everything was fine. I was like, oh, okay, this is good. Everything is fine. And I've heard this described in abduction stories.
Hmm.
They'll be freaking out on the table, and then all of a sudden, the being will just look at them or communicate with them and they'll feel peace. And so I'm feeling peace and I'm in this like colorful, kaleidoscopic place. And the being touches my chest, everything is fine. Next thing you know, bright shining light, and I'm in this huge, infinite, like hall, this huge, ancient looking hall with like pillars, inside of it in a long, long area. And at the other end of it, I see a cloud, like another gold cloud, but this cloud is sparkling with lights, and they're like eyes in this cloud. Like these are beings that are in this huge cloud. And this place is strange, it's weird, and there's a constant hum, just like a and I feel it right in the middle of my chest as I'm in this place. And I'm like, okay, this is new, this is different, I don't know what this is. It's beautiful, like the colors and everything is super vibrant. And out from this cloud steps a humanoid, tall, skinny thing. It walks out, and it's shining, it's glowing like everything else. And it comes up to me. It's huge. This thing is huge. And I look up at it, and it says to me, "What do you want?" And when it said that, the words echoed throughout this infinite place, just and I felt them inside of me, these words. What do you want? I knew in that moment that I could ask for anything. If I asked for anything, it would have happened. The sureness, the certainty, as sure as I know the sun is going to come out tomorrow, I could have asked for anything. What do you want? And it bubbled up inside of me, this like childlike excitement. I was like, I want to be a part of this, whatever this is. I want access to this place I'm in right now, these beings. I want this. And like a ball of light left its chest and flew down into my chest. And then a cord connected us, another astral cord connected us. And I felt this peace. And I was back in the same place I was when I found the cloud. I was back into that source consciousness, that infinite peace. And I stayed there for a long time until I woke up back in my body. I feel like this council, this cloud of beings I met, they were the watchers from the book of Enoch. These beings were the Anunnaki from the ancient Mesopotamian text. Like these are the beings that the magicians and the sorcerers and the ascended masters were connecting with when they would do everything that they did. And I feel like this is what we need to connect with in our spiritual practices. This is where mankind is supposed to be going. This is what Jesus talked about. I know I can go on and on about this
No,
all day.
man,
Stop
that's
me if I'm
amazing.
saying too
No,
much.
not at all, man. No, you're blowing my mind. It's amazing. What? So once you had that experience, did that change you as a person?
Oh my God. I didn't leave the house for like a solid week. I
Yeah.
stayed home. I hardly ate anything. I may have fasted just drinking water, and I meditated all day long. I'd wake up and I would just meditate. And the moment I'd close my eyes, just like when I first started astral projecting, it was like, boom, easy. I'd close my eyes and I'd be in that same place of peace, that infinite void, that source consciousness drifting. And it would happen, and I would meditate for so long that I would forget where I was. Somebody would knock on the door, a doorbell would ring, or my neighbors would come home, whatever the case may be, and it would scare me. Like, whoa, where am I at? What's going on? Like,
Yeah.
how did I get here? It's like I'd forget that I was here. It was such a powerful experience.
Wow.
And fear of death, fear of like what's gonna happen after we like leave this life, completely gone. completely gone. Like, there's no fear at all. I'm totally at peace with it.
Yeah, man. You know, when you hear stories of like monks going into the mountains and meditating for, weeks, days, whatever it is, a long time, and you think like, how could anyone do that for that long? But then
Mm.
when you're telling me this, it's sort of that's what
It's
they're
like,
doing. That's what they're
what are
doing.
they experiencing? Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to think that same thing. I had a mentor, a Reiki master would teach me. He came to my church. He was a Christian, but he also did Reiki and he was a master of it. So he taught me. And I would see him when we'd meditate or we'd pray or we'd worship because we were Christians. And I could visibly see him like as though he were being affected by this energy that was coming down on him. And I'd always wonder, like, what's happening? How's this happening? What is that he's experiencing? And it was only until these times where I started to tap into this energy when I'd meditate and I would be in a totally different place. I'd look up and hours will have passed. I feel like that energy is the energy that we can connect with on a daily basis. I feel like that energy is what Jesus was talking about when he said the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Like most people don't realize it, but the Bible is a book of symbolism and allegory. Everything that Jesus said in the Bible is allegorical. There are so many powerful things that he said that people take at face value and miss the bigger message. When Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is at hand, the kingdom of heaven is near, he was basically saying the kingdom of heaven is within you. That's how
Yeah.
you access heaven. That's how you access these higher realms. So, my question for you is, have you ever had goosebumps when you were listening to music or
Yeah.
a really powerful scene in a movie like that scene in, Space Jam?
Yeah.
You know,
100%, man.
you
Yeah.
get the chills. That's
Hmm.
it. You're tapping into that current of energy.
Interesting.
Waves go through your body. You feel these chills. My mentor taught me to tap into that. And when I started to connect with this council, I call them the Council of Light. When I started to connect with them, this energy would flow through me all day long. Like this whole conversation, just like you can't see it now, but I've had goosebumps this whole time, just
Yeah. Yeah.
of this energy. Everyone can tap into this. Now, I like liking aliens. I like to think I'm a scientist, a paranormal researcher, but
Yeah.
uh, I like to research this stuff and figure out what's actually going on with the brain. And they know what's happening. There aren't very many studies done on it, but what this is called is frisson. This that some people call it spiritual chills or aesthetic chills. And it's this feeling of euphoria and this waves of energy that give you goosebumps. Now, scientific study was done in 2018 on 32 people who could do this at will. Now, the crazy thing is you're not supposed to be able to do this. You're not supposed to be able to give yourself the chills because it's a sympathetic nervous system response. Fight or flight. Pupils dilate, you start to sweat, heart beats fast, you release adrenaline and epinephrine, and then goosebumps, and you get the chills. Like you're not supposed to be able to turn that on because it's a parasympathetic response. It's autonomous, autonomic nervous system response. You're not supposed to be able to do that, but people can. It's my belief that everyone has this ability to tap into this. And I teach people to tap into this. That's what my YouTube channel is about. It's teaching people to connect with this current. I recently finished a book and I call the book Connecting the Current. It's the idea that you can tap into this energy, the same energy that the ancient mystics and the ascended masters and Jesus and Buddha, this is what they tapped into. This is why the monks can meditate for hours. And it's easy because they're tapping into this flow
Hmm.
and they're experiencing another type of reality. Interestingly enough, I started monitoring this. I would time it because most times when you get the chills, it only lasts a few seconds. It's like it comes over you and it's gone. You get the shiver down your spine and it's over.
Hmm.
I started timing it. See, my mentor taught me how to activate it, how to start it up, through Reiki. And it took a while, but eventually I learned how to do it. After my experience in the astral realm with this council, I started to time it. Like, how long can I keep this going? How long is this lasting? After 5 to 10 minutes, I noticed I would start to have these euphoric sort of psychedelic experiences, and I would start to feel like I'm in this void again, like I am source consciousness again. 5 to 10 minutes of continually feeling this energy. And then I thought to myself, what is this energy? It has to be more than just, just the sympathetic nervous system, just fight or flight. It has to be
Mhm.
more than that.
Yeah.
I started looking into more Hinduism or Buddhism, and they talk about, I'm sure you've heard of it, they talk about the Kundalini, the coiled serpent. Now, what is supposed to happen is you're supposed to open the chakras, and the Kundalini rises from the base of your spine, the base chakra, and it rises up to the third eye and then out the crown chakra, and you feel this flooding of energy. It turns out that that's what had been happening to me. I've been activating this Kundalini, and the Kundalini rises through the Sushumna Nadi. Basically, in Hinduism, there's the understanding of the energy system. They believe that there is a channel of energy that rises up to the top and goes out the head, and there is the Ida and the Pingala, these two energies that coil around it. This is the same symbol you see, like the medical symbol of like the wings and the snakes going around the center. That's the same
Mhm.
symbol. It's symbolic of that. The energy rises up, activates the third eye, opens up the crown chakra, and shoots out. When my holy guardian angel, my astral echo, I call it, the being that touched me and I levitated, when it touched me, it was opening these energy centers. It was activating this energy. I feel like that's what we need to start doing. Everything in the Bible is symbolism, and I feel like everything Jesus said is leading to activating this energy, opening your chakras and activating the Kundalini so that you can experience heaven. Now, the Bible says also that, and I thought this was really interesting. The Bible says that we are temples for the living God, and I'd heard that before. It's like I heard that this thing that I saw said that, but it also said that God doesn't reside in temples built by human hands, but that we are the temple. So God resides in us. And if you look at occult symbolism, there is a ton of symbolism around the body being a temple of God. Like God resides in the temples of our head. And then you look into the pineal gland. The pineal gland is considered the third eye in every culture. Every mystical culture, they see the pineal gland as a third eye.
Yeah.
Even in Egyptian culture, the eye of Horus is a third eye. That is the opening, the gateway into all of this.
Man, it's
I could talk
wild.
about this the whole
Yeah,
day.
I love it, man. So it's kind of like because you would say, like, why do we need this? Why do we need our bodies as we are now if we've got this amazing world that we could be, this other realm that we could be in all the time, and it's better than where we are now in our normal everyday lives. But we need to have these our bodies, and that's the reason why
Yeah.
we're here. But there is, man, that makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense. I know it didn't make a lot of sense how I just explained it there, but how you explained it, it made a lot of sense. Wow, man,
I hope
that's
so. Sometimes I feel like
wild.
there's so much information. I'm trying to just like get it
Yeah,
out. But
yeah.
I hear that a lot. A lot of people will ask, why is it important to be here when you can be there?
Mhm.
And for a long time, when I started to astral project, I would be gone all the time. I'd want to be gone and I wouldn't want to come back. But you get imbalanced that way. Like we're here for a reason. We chose to be here. We chose to interact with other people. When I go into that space and I join that collective Christ conscience or the source or God, I'm not me. I'm just abiding in this peace. And and you realize you came here to experience an individual consciousness. You came here to play the game. I can go and I can meditate, I can astral project, be in this void, this cloud of God. I can stay there and be in this bliss what feels like forever. But I am a part of this. Like I am this thing now. Cal is just an identity that I can take off and put away. Like in my book, I talk about this concept. We're not our physical bodies. Like this isn't who we are. This is something we use as like VR goggles. This is our avatar in this game. When we take the goggles off, we're God. We created all of this. We're connected to everything. And that's why we have to be here. This we're playing a game. We're just having fun.
Yeah,
Buddhists call this God's dream. This is just all of this is just a product of God having a dream.
yeah. we're just having an experience that we've chose to have because we want to feel that feeling,
Yeah.
whether it's a painful life or a great life. Wow. Can I ask you, so the Light Council,
Mm.
um, can I ask you what they look like?
I've seen a few of them now. There are many. I feel like out of this cloud, there's always it's like this area is like smoky. There are always clouds. There are always lights coming out of the clouds like eyes. But it seems like the more energetically attuned I become to them, the more experience I get with them, the more I begin to pick some of them out. Some of them look like different colors of, if you could imagine seeing the silhouette of a person, but the silhouette isn't black, it's glowing. Some of them look like different colors, and the more I work with them, they begin to take shapes like people. But they're, and this is why I think it's really weird, and why I say like they could be aliens. I don't know. I say it's weird because they're long, humanoid looking things that the more I begin to interact with them, they're human, but they're not human. They don't look like humans in the way that you and I do. They're more perfect, like symmetrically perfect, and they're huge. Some of these beings are enormous where I've never seen their upper body. It's just their legs in this infinite space. Just when I
Wow.
go, because all these beings command a domain. When you start to interact with them, you shift into their frequency, and now you're in a different place with them. And some of these beings are enormous. Like you think like Metatron and some of these other archangels and these higher angels, they are enormous. These beings that are just made of light and fire. They're just huge. And so those are the ones I've seen predominantly. I do a lot of work with what people would call from like Kabbalistic belief systems. They would call these like uh, archangels or seraphim, cherubim. These different angels. I just describe them as these beings of light. Some of them look like beings made of fire, beings made of pure light. Some of them look like they're wearing robes. It's really really interesting. And I also think that they can shift how they appear because it's energy. They can appear to me however they please. Sometimes they're just appearing as orbs of light. I remember hearing a guy named Terrence McKenna. If you're into the DMT space, you may have heard of
Hmm.
him, but
Yeah.
he describes the DMT world and seeing these self dribbling balls of light. You will see those in the astral realm. That's why I feel like I must be entering this DMT space because sometimes they appear as these just balls of energy that kind of hover. I wouldn't say they're bouncing. It's just like a just this hovering energy that it glows and it speaks to you from this. It's interesting.
Yeah,
I
man.
will say that definitely,
And it's like,
definitely.
would you say it's a telepathic talk? Like how people describe, as you're saying,
Mm,
alien abductions, when it's
mm,
more of a telepathical talk. Man, that's
definitely.
that is wild.
Yeah,
Man, you're blowing my
it's
mind,
crazy.
brother.
That's what I'm here for.
So can you so obviously you're doing this a lot now. You're on a higher level, I would say, obviously. Like you're
Still
well
learning,
you're
but
well in
we're getting it.
advanced. So yeah. Can you just do this as you please now? You can just go there.
It I'll say it takes, because I've had a few people ask me this, is like, is it just like you think and you're there?
Mhm.
I feel like it's much stranger than that. I feel like I'm always there. And if you encounter people who've astral projected a lot and who spend a lot of time in this other place, you'll start to get a sense from the way they talk about it, like they're always there. I've had people email me and message me, and they've said, I saw you in the astral, you helped me get out of my body, or I saw you standing over my bed. And I think, that's insane. How am I doing that? I don't remember that. And it's like, I feel like I'm always there in the council. At any moment, I can stop, focus on this present moment, and I'm instantly connected to them. Now, I could, of
Interesting.
course, meditate for a little longer, relax my body, get into a deep trance, and then astral project. I feel the vibrations and I'll leave,
Mhm.
but I'm always there. In a moment, I can close my eyes and I feel this current of energy flowing through me. In the Bible, they call this the Holy Spirit that you're connecting with, power from on high. Is a lot of symbolism, a lot of symbolism. But yeah, I feel like I'm always in this council. Like I haven't left. I've just awakened to being here as well. And the moment
Interesting.
I allow myself to go back there, I found that I haven't left.
Interesting, man. Can you meet family members that have passed? Can
Mm,
you connect with them in the astral world?
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's another thing. They're always there. I heard someone put it very, very beautifully, is this idea that when your loved one passes away, you lose someone. And a lot of people have asked, well, why don't they come back? Why don't they visit me? I want them to. I open the door for them to visit. And I believe it was a guy named Daryl Anka who talked about his really powerful way he put it. And it's absolutely how it feels. They are rejoining this source, this spirit family, this collective of beings. They're rejoining, and you're already there. And so they're with
Interesting.
who you are already. This part of us is like a little pinky. This Cal Melkez talking to you is just the pinky of the overall being of who I am in the higher dimensions. And so when people die, your loved ones pass on, they're connecting with you in this place, in heaven or paradise, whatever you want to call it. And so they don't visit you here because they're with you already. And the idea is like, well, I'm here with you now, but I'm going to go and interact with you in that dream you're having. But I'm
Mhm.
here with you right now. That's you see that's kind of how it is. I've had so many experiences of like my grandfather, my great grandfather, this just like my extended family that has passed on, where they will just meet me in the astral. They'll be waiting for me. It's like, hey, I want to go through this experience with you, and they'll just walk me through it, or just simply being able to be there with them is extremely powerful.
Mhm.
Astral projection is a liberation. Like we believe we're stuck here in these bodies and that this world is all there is, but we are mind. We are
Yeah.
free from all this corporeal, you know,
Yeah.
humdrum that we go through.
Gonna go down the conspiracy route now.
Of course.
Do you think that the powers that be, whoever really is in charge of the world, that they don't want us to be aware of this spiritual ability that's in all of us that we can all do, that we can all unlock? Do you think that is suppressed on purpose? That they don't want us to experience this? They don't really want us to know that we can do this? Because it would change the world
Mm,
if everyone could was aware of this and could do this. The world would be an amazing place. Like it really would be, because there would be so much love and you know. But obviously they don't
absolutely.
want that. Do you
Mm.
think that's on purpose?
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. And it's funny that you talk about that because that's one of the real focus points of my book is trying to break people out of this illusion and point it out like, hey, like you feel this way, you think that you're so limited and so, powerless by design. It was done that way on purpose. And if you just think about the Bible that we have today, that this text that we regard as holy today, it has been cut up and taken apart, and things have been omitted and changed. Back in the year 325 AD, Constantine assembled what they called a Council of Nicaea, where the first Christian leaders came together and they picked which Bible or which text would be in the Bible and which ones wouldn't. And they took out the texts that were crucial to understanding that you could connect directly to God. The Jesus from the Bible and the Jesus from those texts that were removed are completely different people. They call this like the Gnostic Gospels. This idea that you can experience God directly and that we are all connected. That's what Jesus taught, and those are the things removed. Another thing removed was the Book of Enoch, and the Gospel of Thomas. Some of these really powerful, mysterious books, they were all taken away. Why? Because it would reveal who you really are. It would pull back the blinders from your eyes, and you begin to realize, I don't need anyone else to connect with God. I'm connected already. I can
Mhm.
have these experiences. That's what Jesus and Buddha and these other ascended masters talked about. That's why they came, to let us know that. It was done by design to gain control over the populace. I absolutely believe that. And look at the world today.
Mhm.
The government and the churches and religions are in control of how people think. If you can control how people think, you control everything about them. Say, for instance, you're a god and I want to control you. How do I do that? I convince you you're not a god. Like in the Justice League, I don't know if you know the Justice League, but
Yeah, for sure.
Green Lantern,
Hmm.
if you can convince the Green Lantern that he doesn't have powers, he won't have powers. One of the ways that I'm a real big nerd for this stuff.
Yeah, I am too, man.
One of the ways Batman has a contingency for how he would beat the Justice League. And when it
Mhm.
comes to Green Lantern is unbelievably powerful. Anything he thinks, and this is perfect metaphor for us as creators in this world, anything that Green Lantern thinks he can create. The power of the ring is only limited by his imagination. And so Batman says, the only way I could beat him is by convincing him that he didn't have power, or instead convincing him somehow that he was blind. The power of the ring would make him blind, would make him powerless by his own power. That's how the 1%, the shadowy government, whoever is pulling the strings, that's how they control us.
Yeah,
They make us believe that we have no power. And by our own power, we become powerless.
yeah,
That's the game.
yeah.
Yep.
So is your mission to to wake as many people up to this as possible,
Yeah.
and that would change the world, man. Like if everyone was
Mm.
practicing this and experiencing these amazing things, 100% the world would be
Totally
an
different.
amazing
Yeah.
place.
And I'm not the only person talking about this. This isn't just my idea that I came up with on the fly. This is what, if you study these ancient texts, these ancient scriptures, these different religions, they all have a message of love and a message that, hey, wake up. You're actually God. You can live a beautiful life and interact with people in an amazing way. And if you can see the God in other people, you would start to wake up to this. It's a really amazing thing. That's what I'm trying to spread. That's what I'm trying to get people to understand.
Mhm.
Wake up to who you actually are. Free
Yeah,
your mind. That's the whole idea.
super interesting, man. But I'm definitely I want to get your books, man. I want to hear more about this because it is
Yeah.
fascinating stuff. I keep saying when next time I experience that vibration, I'm gonna let it happen. You know, I'm gonna see what
Mhm.
happens. But but we'll see. I'll keep you posted on that.
Definitely, man. I'll help you through it, man. Definitely.
Yeah, man.
Definitely. It's you have to trust.
Mhm.
If your viewers go away with anything, if your listeners go away with anything, if you're ever in a situation where you're trying to manifest something or you're experiencing intense fear from sleep paralysis, say, trust. Trust is the other side of fear. If you trust, what are you trusting in? You're trusting that you are something greater than this. You're trusting that you are connected to God and that you are perfectly okay. Trust, and the situation will take care of itself. You will be perfectly led through it. Like if you can just let go, you will see how easy it is to astral project because that's your natural state.
Yeah,
This human body is not naturally who you are. You're unbounded. You're a boundless being. You can
yeah.
do it. Anyone else can do it. That's what it's
So
all about.
interesting, man. It's so
Yeah.
interesting. Because for the average person that probably doesn't really look into this sort of stuff, like that would just be mind blowing because this is everything that we know, our
Yeah.
perception. Um, but yeah, man, it's making a lot of sense what you're saying. Super, super interesting, man. Can I ask you that because this is something that I know we've got to wrap it up soon, but I've just got a few more questions if you don't mind.
Of course, man, of
Um,
course.
if I wanted to go just for example to New York in
Mhm.
astral projection, if I go there and am I actually there? Does that make sense? Or is it
Mhm.
like could I go anywhere in the world, anywhere in the universe, and am I actually there?
Now, this is an interesting thing that people have talked about and debated a lot, and there is evidence on both sides. Some people say, well, no, you can't. You're not actually going there. It's just an imagination. And other people have come back with very real information. Say,
Hmm.
yes, I was actually there. I saw it. I had an experience where a few times I'd astral project and I would see what was happening in my house around me and wake up to tell the people in the house, hey, this is what happened. Uh, I even remember I joined a group on Discord, and I don't really tell this story very much, because it's happened so long ago. Uh, and it was a group of astral projectors. We were all people who could do it pretty good. Every now and again it would happen, and we would kind of just coordinate. Well, they would meet at a certain place every time they would astral project. And since I was new to the group, they didn't show me this map that they had created. One of the people in the group was an artist, and so he drew a map ahead of time. And they tested me when I joined the group because I was like, "Oh, I'm an astral projection teacher. Like, this is what I do." And they were like, "Okay, let's see if you can do it." And so I astral projected. I went to this place, following basically the energy and the intention, because that's another thing to answer your question. Uh, I followed the intention. I want to meet these people. Where are they? And I would be where they were in a thought's instant. I would be there. And I studied this place. I studied the architecture where I was. I was on the shore. There were, huge boulders here and there. There was a forest there. I charted it out. And what I experienced was directly what was drawn on this map, one to one.
Wow.
And I told them before they showed me the map, I was like, well, there's this, there's that, there's this over here, very specific. The beach is here, this is there. And they were like, yeah, that's exactly what's on the map. And
Wow.
they sent me a picture of the map, and I was like, oh my God. I made a TikTok about it actually at that time, talking about how crazy the experience was. Uh, I think we're actually visiting these places. I think that there are varying levels of the astral planes. The higher you go vibrationally, the further you move away from this reality. What a lot of people experience, I feel like, is when they astral project, they're astral projecting farther away from this physical reality in some instances. And so they're not experiencing here. But I found that you can instantly travel to where you want to be in this in this, like, this kind of here and now. So if I were
Mhm.
to astral project and I wanted to be in Paris, I'd be there instantly. I'd think about it, visualize it, bang, I'd be there, because there's
Wow.
nothing limiting your travel. You're not in a body anymore.
Mhm.
Just as quickly as you can think of being at the beach, you can see the beach in your mind. That's how quickly you would be there. The only thing limiting you from experiencing that beach is your awareness of your five senses. If we had enough time, I would guide you through a meditation, get you deeply relaxed, and I tell you to visualize that beach. I tell you to hear it, to smell it, to feel it. And you'd receive flashes of you actually being there on that beach. Just boom, flashes. You're projecting there instantly
Yeah.
because your body is beginning to relax. We're far more powerful than we think we are. We're not just these bodies.
Yeah.
We're not just these bodies.
Wow. Blow my mind, man. I mean, it's super interesting. It's something that's scared me. I'll admit it scared me, the thought of leaving my body and seeing myself laying there. But it's something that I want to do.
Mm.
I want to try it, man.
Just you'd be surprised, just to demonstrate how powerful you are over this experience. Just if you can facilitate an intention and a deep, deep knowing that you can do it,
Yeah.
just before you go to bed, just know and be sure, like, I can do this. No question. Don't like, well, maybe, well, no, no, I can do this. I do this all the time. This is easy.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. I guarantee you're going to have a very strange experience following that. That's how easy it is. We're so afraid of our natural power by design that these things are scary. And of course, they are when you first get into them. Swimming in deep water is going to be scary the first time you do it, you know, but you have to get used to, I feel like we're here to learn who we are. You just have to get used to who you are. We're powerful beings.
Yeah, man, for sure. Brother, super interesting stuff. I just want to ask you quickly, just before we wrap it up. Have you had paranormal experiences that are not to do with the astral realm, that in the body that you're in now? Have you experienced
Oh, yeah.
paranormal activity?
Oh yeah, a lot of weird stuff. A lot of weird stuff. First thing that comes to mind, I was at an apartment some years ago, and I would meditate a lot. I do my thing, just normal sort of guy that I am. This apartment was in a bit of a rougher neighborhood, a rougher area. Uh, And one night I went to sleep, was sleeping next to my wife, and I just remember being just awakened out of my sleep by this feeling of like talons or claws grabbing my leg. And it was like I was pulled down in the bed just by my leg. Just like I was pulled, and I was like, "Oh my god, what was that?" I woke up and I was like, "What was that? What's going on?" I look over to my wife. I was like, "Is like, hello? Is like, did you do this? What's happening?" She, of course, is asleep, and that was the start of these really weird experiences. I would hear knocks on the walls, repetitions of three at certain times of night. And I was like, "What is this? Like, is this weird?" And it was on a wall that was still in my apartment. Ding, ding, ding. I'd look on the other side of the wall. Obviously, there's nothing going on. And one morning in this place, I woke up. I think I had even just taken a nap, and I had just woken up. And my bedroom, uh, if you open the door to my bedroom, you could see out into the kitchen and everything like that. And, I woke up, I got up, I was about to get out of bed, and I saw this this shadow walk past the door, but it was like the shadow was vibrating, and it just walked right by the door. It's clear as day. It wasn't far either. Like the door to my bedroom and the kitchen were a foot away. Like this thing was right there in the room practically. And it was just like this visceral sense of fear. I was like, "Oh my God, what is this thing I'm seeing walk past?" It was crazy. I've had a lot of weird experiences like that. So much so
Interesting,
that I
man.
would love to just go. Uh, I was really big into like paranormal investigating. I would just go to sites that people would say were really haunted and things like that, like going to cemeteries and stuff. So,
Yeah,
so a lot of interesting, a lot of
yeah,
interesting
man.
experiences,
Yeah,
especially of seeing things and hearing things. I feel like those are some of the biggest things to see or to see and hear things are some of the biggest things,
yeah,
especially with work in like magic, ritual magic. I do a lot. When you're working with spirits and you're evoking spirits, the signs that you get. There were times where I would be performing rituals, and again, I'm a rather strange dude, but I'd be performing rituals up on the roof of my house, and this is like 12 o'clock at night, and I'm doing this ritual, saying these specific names, calling on these spirits, and I would just hear running all around the house in the middle of the night. Nobody's around, and I used a ladder to get up on the roof, and I would hear things banging up against the ladder. I thought like, okay, this is just an animal. I hope they don't knock down the ladder. I'm gonna be in big trouble. And then I heard footsteps coming up the ladder. And now one of the things you have to understand when you're doing these sort of rituals and you're summoning things
mhm,
is that you have to continue the chant. You can't break the chant. You can't break it off and stop in the middle. That's not good. That's bad. And so as this thing is coming up and I'm hearing these footsteps and starting to see these lights, like blinking lights just around me, you have to keep saying these words, these names. And I could talk all day about the Islamic roots of magic and these divine names. And these are other things that I talk about in my book. And I give some of these rituals to have these experiences. But
yeah,
a lot of strange things. What about yourself? You sound like you're someone who's had a lot of experience with it.
yeah, man. I've seen things that I can't explain. I've seen a ghost. I've seen shadow figures,
Mm-hmm.
UFOs. I mean, I feel like you know, some people seem to have a lot of experiences. I don't know why it is, but I seem to be someone that I heard of someone call my name the other night. Like
Mm-hmm.
I seem to have a lot. I know I do a paranormal podcast, so I'm dabbling with the
Mm-hmm.
weird and strange. But yeah, I've had experiences, man. Weird, freaky experiences. There's a lot more going on around us, and sometimes, as we were saying before, you get a glimpse of that. I think,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
man, it's wild. It's all
Yeah.
connected.
I was about to say that exactly. It's like it's all connected, man.
Yeah.
Like somehow or another, you're definitely connected. Whether it's through like an astral cord or something, or like you're
Mhm.
connected with certain spirits and they call you and you have these experiences. You're definitely connected to something because that's
Yeah.
what you're describing is a lot of the things that I experience with like knocking on the walls and especially with the spirits from this council that I work with.
Mhm.
I'm experiencing knocking on the walls, things falling over all the time, hearing whispers. It's commonplace to me now. I'm used to it now, but there'll be, hey, come over here. I'd hear these sort of things or
Mhm.
it's time. Like it's like, oh, I need to go and meditate. It's like, oh, I need to get into this. It can be frightening, but you're definitely connected. You're definitely
Yeah,
connected to something. That's cool.
interesting, man. Cal, super interesting stuff, brother. I feel like we can talk more. I feel like there's more we can discuss.
Of
And I'd love
course.
to do that maybe another time, get you back on, talk some more, because I feel
Definitely.
like there's a lot more we can talk about, man. But thank you so much. You blow my mind tonight, brother. Can you tell the listeners where they can find you?
Oh yeah, it's everything. You can find everything that I do through my website, www.astralmindfoundation.com. Astral, like astral projection, mind foundation. You can find my YouTube channel there. You can find my articles where I talk about these different spirits and these different experiences. I've got that catalog. I've got meditation techniques, all of that stuff I just put out there for free because I want people to know this information. And I also have a practice now where I'm beginning to tap into and really invest myself in this practice of connecting with this council of light, these beings, and not just taking astral cords or connecting cords to myself, but I'm also doing that for other people. Like I'll take these cords and I will say, meet you by intention, come to you, connect these cords to your astral self. And this is something I was actually interested in doing with you as well. Uh,
Interesting.
Maybe not tonight, maybe tomorrow or in the next like several days. That I'll message you and let you know that I'm doing this. But
Awesome.
it's been a very interesting response because that's one of the things people ask you is, you astral project, can you pull me out of body?
Mhm.
And this is better than that because it's making you the source. You're connected directly now, and you get
Interesting.
the ability to do this. Now it's like, giving a man a fish and feeding him for a day instead of teaching him. I want to teach people to do this. I want them to be connected to this council like I am,
Mhm.
and taking these astral cords and connecting them to people's heart centers. It's like a form of Reiki, but I can do it in the astral realm. And it's really been powerful. People have really been responding to that. And you can find that on my website as well. I talk about how it's done and like the history of different cultures and religions that do it, because I'm not the first person to do it. Shamans do it. Like it's an ancient shamanistic practice. Really cool stuff.
Yeah,
And
man.
so it's like, definitely check that out.
Awesome
And of
stuff,
course,
brother.
my book is on there as well. Yeah, it's
Awesome,
my
man.
my book is called Connecting the Current, a treatise on consciousness and greater mysteries. It's talks about all this weird stuff.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm going to share it in the show description so people can find it very easily right now. Guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please share it. Share it where you can. That's a great way to support the show. Cal, thank you so much, brother. I'm hoping we can talk many more times. You've blown my mind tonight. Thank you for coming on, sir. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you very much, man. And we'll see you soon, guys. Thank you.